Have you guys heard about the constraints coming to the Chevy HD trucks, specifically for the diesel? You heard me correctly, this is not clickbait. I have an article that's going to be discussing the matter. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and make sure you check out Ken Garff's inventory if you would like to purchase a truck. This beautiful ZR2 finished in white sands is available. I did a video on this, and if I remember, maybe I'll link it at the end of this one. So let's go ahead and check out this article and then we'll jump into the video. Now, I found this article on GMAuthority.com, and the title says Chevy Silverado HD Duramax engine will soon be constrained. So yes, most of what I get off of this website is pretty accurate. So it says here, Chevy Silverado HD buyers could soon face reduced availability for the popular Duramax turbo diesel engine option. According to sources familiar with the matter, the Silverado HD's optional 6.6 liter V8 L5P diesel engine will face availability constraints later this year. At this point, it remains unclear whether the constraint will only affect production for the 2026 model year Silverado HD, or if it will affect both 26 and 27 model year vehicles. Either way, buyers planning to order a Silverado HD equipped with the Duramax diesel may want to move sooner rather than later. I recently did a video on the take rate for gas versus diesel, and in that video I discussed how some of the trim levels were actually high takers for the gas engine. For example, the LT trim level shocked me. I expected the work truck model to have the highest take rate for gas, but in fact the custom and the LT beat out the work truck model. So obviously, if you're looking at ZR2, High Country, or even LTZ, these trims are going to be high takers for this L5P Duramax diesel. Now let's go ahead and jump into the article. I just wanted to make that point really quickly because that video is actually something to go back and watch as well. Looking at the numbers, diesel powered units of the Chevy Silverado HD currently make up a substantial portion of available inventory. Of the 30,795 Chevy Silverado HD units either in dealer inventory or in transit across the United States, 16,595 units are equipped with the Duramax diesel, representing 53.9% of the available mix. As GM Authority covered previously, demand for the Duramax engine varies significantly. Depending on the trim level in question, buyers shopping lower trims continue to favor the standard 6.6 V8 L8T gasoline engine, while premium trim buyers show a much stronger preference for diesel power. The preference for the optional diesel engine starts to shift with the LT trim, where gasoline powered models account for 62.1% of the mix, while diesel equipped trucks represent 37.9%. Above LT, the Duramax quickly becomes the preferred powertrain, with 66.7% of LTZ buyers selecting the Duramax engine, a split mirrored with the off-road oriented ZR2. High Country buyers show the strongest preference for the Duramax engine, making up 86.3% of the split. As a reminder, the naturally aspirated 6.6 liter V8 L8T gasoline engine is rated at 401 horsepower and 464 pound-feet of torque, while the Duramax 6.6 V8 L5P turbo diesel is rated at 470 horsepower and 975 pound-feet of torque. The Chevy Silverado HD rides on a more capable variant of the GM T1 platform, while vehicle assembly takes place at GM Flint Assembly in Michigan, as well as the GM Oshawa Assembly Plant in Ontario, Canada. There are a few things missing in this article. They don't tell us why the constraint, right? So we have to speculate. Now, obviously, we're pretty much halfway through the year, and you're probably going to start seeing the order books close for the 2026 model year probably for the next couple months, because figure it takes anywhere between 2 to 4 months for trucks to get built out and shipped to the dealers. And then by that time, they'll have the 2027 model year books open for order. Now, you're not going to see a redesigned Silverado HD for 2027. However, you will see an unveiling of the 2027 Chevy Silverado half tons this year. So the half tons are slated to get revealed for 2026, and probably by the end of the year you probably might see them showing up at dealerships. Now, we have to talk about GMC Sierra HD for a second. That was not listed in this article. So Chevys are getting a constraint, but the GMC Sierras are not. Now, I can speculate that makes sense because the take rate for the GMC Sierra HDs are probably a lot higher compared to the Chevy Silverado, because you can get the gas L8T in every trim level for this truck. However, if you're looking at a GMC Sierra, you cannot get the gas engine for the Denali Ultimate. So that's probably what's going on here. Now, I don't think that they're going to be unveiling a new diesel for these trucks for 2027. I can't see them doing that. Although, actually, now that I think about it, in 2017, they did do that. This L5P is technically a Gen 2, okay? And they did a major overhaul on the truck. Now, they did not redesign the truck until 2020. And then they just added the 10-speed transmission behind it. And of course, 342 rear end. So it's possible GM could add a new diesel for 2027, but highly unlikely. Now, something I would like to address is this. I still think that even if you don't tow often and heavy, this is still a really good engine to have. I like the idea of the turbo diesel simply because if you do a lot of highway driving, you are going to get better fuel economy compared to the gas L8T. I'm just telling you right now, I've owned both. I'm speaking from experience. I like the idea of the gas engine because there's less emissions equipment, obviously. You don't have to deal with EGR and DPF and SCR and DLC, all that crap. And of course, DEF, right? And all the supporting components that go with them. So that's the nice thing about the L8T. However, GM has not done anything ever since 2020. So it's been 6 years since they've done some type of update with that 6.6 liter L8T. I would have liked to have seen more horsepower, even if they kept the torque about the same. Or, I've said this many times before in the past, why not add a performance tune with supporting modifications for guys who don't mind burning the premium fuel? I would have loved to have seen that with the L8T, and I would venture to say some guys would probably pick that option on a truck like this. I mean, even if they added a supercharger option from the factory covered under the 3 year 36 warranty, I could see guys being excited about that, because I've heard the gas L8T does have a lot of power handling capability. So the only thing you have to worry about is the 10-speed transmission behind it. So all in all, we will probably see these trucks getting tested next year. We haven't seen any test mules of these for that next generation, but once they unveil the half tons, we'll start seeing these trucks getting tested, possibly new engine, and I would say they're going to do some updates to the 10-speed transmission. And I would like to personally see GM get away from building their own transmissions. Just my opinion. I think that if they allowed another manufacturer,
ZF,
who said that? I don't know where that came from, but yeah, if they allowed someone else to build their own transmissions, they could spend more R&D getting the best powertrains available. As of right now, I don't hear of a lot of issues with the L5P Duramax. Earlier on, there were issues obviously with the oil coolers failing, because what would happen is they would fail and they would spill oil into the coolant reservoir here. That issue I have not heard a lot of right now. And the 10 speeds, obviously most people know that the 10 speeds have had some issues, and so far my truck has a tune on it and it has well over the horsepower and torque that the truck had factory. I've had no issues. I've towed cross country. I've driven probably over 12,000 miles with that truck now. No issues so far. But your miles may vary. Now, in closing, the main reason why I did this video is this. If you're looking to order a Chevy Silverado HD and you know you want to get the Duramax diesel, just know that you may not be able to get a specific configuration with the Duramax diesel. So I would do some research, start calling your dealerships now, because if you can put in an order, get the Duramax diesel the way you want it, that way you'll be ahead of the pack. Because if for any reason you start seeing more L8T trucks get delivered, because maybe GM's not going to build high countries and even the LTZs, ZR2s with the diesel, you could potentially get ahead of the pack and not deal with additional dealer markups, right? Or maybe even dealerships just not discounting them as heavily as they did in the past, simply because there's less inventory. When there's a supply and demand issue, what happens typically to the price? It goes up. And we saw that during 2020 and 2024. Like, we just saw where dealers were just holding steady at MSRP just simply because they didn't have the inventory, right? So again, do your research and let me know your guys' thoughts in the comment section. See you guys in the next video.